Hey, I know it's been a while and I haven't uploaded anything. To be honest, I've been super busy with a bunch of stuff, side projects and jobs and all that, which I won't bore you with. But anyway, today I'm here because after a long time away from this channel, I decided to come back and holy crap, 1,000 views. Thank you all so much for subscribing and enjoying the video that I did just over a year ago now. And I really do appreciate all the support. That being said, when I came back, I did see that somebody had a question, and rather than just answering them in the comments section, I decided I would answer that question now. So I'm going to be going through the process of soul duplication in Dark Souls Remastered and showing just how to do it, and there are two types to go through. Additionally, I'll be taking the standpoint of somebody who just wants to get there as fast as possible, so this is kind of an earliest possible setup approach, sort of. I started as a thief just because they start with the Master Key and the Black Firebomb so that I can kill the Asylum Demon on the first encounter. Not like it really matters, but I just wanted to do it that way. What does matter, though, is making sure not to spend any of the souls you get on levels after you get back to Firelink Shrine. After you take the elevator down, you're going to pick up the large soul of a nameless soldier, and the Soul of a Proud Knight. And make sure to use the large Soul of a Nameless Soldier, which should be worth 1,000 souls. Now that plus the 2,000 souls you get from the Asylum Demon is enough to purchase 999 wooden arrows from Andre when you get there, which is exactly what you need to do. And once you have 999 wooden arrows, you need to go into your inventory, select them, and you're going to go to drop them, but don't actually do it. Then you're going to go to the quit game menu, where the option menu is, as if you're going to quit the game. But instead, just use your mouse to highlight the inventory option. Now this next input can be a bit tricky to get the timing of, although it does get easier if you have a controller. As it turns out, the game doesn't actually change menus until you release the mouse button. So if you hold the left mouse button down, and almost immediately after you release that mouse button, you press E on your keyboard or A on a controller to enter the menu. Like I said, if you have a controller, the controller method is a bit more forgiving with the timing, but either way does work. You should see yourself in the inventory menu along with a confirmation from the options screen. Using your mouse, you're going to scroll using the mouse wheel down to the item that you want to duplicate. You will highlight that, click on it, and then pay attention to the top of the screen. It will cycle through, depending on where your mouse is, it'll cycle through saying use item, drop item, that sort of thing that you would normally see. It's going to be blocked by the overlay, the do you want to quit this game overlay. But if you pay attention to the top, all you have to do is when it says use item, click on that. And then you just press down on the controller or on your keyboard, and then it will allow you to select 999, because we had 999 wooden arrows, and those arrows, or at least the number of arrows, was stored as a sort of a local variable. And as long as we have 999 as the local variable, so in other words, as long as we don't look at another item, we can get 999 of whatever it is that we're doing with this menu manipulation. And so once you've used 999 of those, obviously that is the easy way to do duplication. But I'm sure you'll notice that because of the way that you duplicated it, it's not actually in your inventory. And the specific question that was asked about the negative values in inventory. And that's a bit more complicated, but it does involve some of the things that we just went over. So let's go over that right now. First things first, this trick does have some limitations and caveats. It does not work with Firekeeper souls, to my knowledge, and I think this is because each one of the Firekeeper souls that you get in the game are unique. And that is to say that you're only allowed to have one of each in the inventory, despite the fact that the name doesn't actually change. It doesn't say that they're different things, but they are effectively different things. Now, you can use a variation of this next trick to purchase multiple spells from a vendor, but the vendor has to sell spells and consumable items, but also not sell rings or armor. So that basically means you're kind of limited to, I think, only about 2 vendors in the entire game that will allow you to sell, or excuse me, allow you to buy multiple spells from them. Now, this same variation of this trick, I believe, is also what got me banned online. So it's, as far as I know, it is perfectly safe to use the trick the way that we're about to use it. But to use it in this specific variation, I guess I want to throw out a word of caution, because there is a way to use this trick to get yourself banned. I firmly believe that this is what actually got one of my accounts banned, because I think that the cheat detection determined that what I was doing was some kind of memory edit. And the way that that ended up happening was that, as it turns out, if you go to a vendor and they are selling an item that is a non-consumable and does not replenish in their inventory stock, then you can actually force the game to allow you to make a purchase of an empty slot. So, for example, if you, let's say, were to go to Sen's Fortress and then go to the Crestfallen Merchant in Sen's Fortress, he sells a couple of rings there. If you buy both of the rings but don't close the merchant menu, you'll still be able to see the merchant menu, the empty screen where normally he would sell rings. And that screen won't actually fully be locked unless you back out. But if while you still have the menu open on that blank menu, you perform this same trick, you can actually force a purchase of something off of an empty menu screen, which doesn't really make any sense, and it kind of causes the game to freak out a bit. It gives you an item that doesn't have an effect. It doesn't have any data associated with it. It's basically a blank object that's just placed in your inventory. The only thing that it seems to do is it changes its icon depending on what was the last thing you highlighted, the last thing you selected. But outside of that, it doesn't really seem to have an effect. But anyway, the reason why I bring all this up is because as I was playing around with this trick, it was shortly after I did this specific thing with it, purchasing an item from a blank menu screen, that I was banned on one of my accounts. And it was the same account that had done this trick. So as far as I'm aware, using the trick to duplicate existing items, perfectly fine. But using this trick to duplicate empty slots or empty strings or empty objects, all that stuff, that, as far as I know, is exactly why I got banned. Anyway, so let's get into actually doing the trick. Alright, make sure that you have at least 1,000,000 souls for this trick. And obviously you can duplicate souls to get there if you need to. Now, once you have 1,000,000 souls, go to Andre and then go to his weapons list. Make sure that the longsword is selected, and then you're going to go over to his arrows, and the standard arrow should be the top one there. Now, when you have the list on the arrows, you're going to move the mouse around the list to the top left, where you see the previous menu option. Now, the timing on this is a bit trickier. It's much more precise. You need to press the mouse button and the E on the keyboard almost simultaneously. It's much stricter on the timing than the previous glitch was. So that being said, if you do successfully press E and the mouse button on the previous menu option at the same time, you will be on the longsword, but it will act as though you were able to purchase 999 of them. And this is probably because we're confusing the game into, we're switching menus while purchasing something. So we purchase 999 longswords this way, and then you're going to back out of the menu and then go back in. So you leave the conversation with Andre, then go back into the conversation with Andre and purchase another longsword. So now, in total, you have 1,000 longswords. Now, this is a bit of a side note here, but if you were to go into your inventory and take a look at your longswords in the inventory, you would see only 2 longswords. It's not like you would see 1,000 longswords there. However, if you were to closely inspect those longswords and take a look at the weight, one of those longswords is going to have the regular weight of a longsword, and the other longsword is going to have the weight of 999 longswords put together. So yeah, watch out for that. Don't use that weapon because it doesn't do any extra damage and it just makes you slow walk. Now from here, as I stated before when I was talking about the putting the variable into memory, all you're going to have to do now is do the last half of the first duplication trick. So we're going to go into the menu as if you're going to quit the game, and then you're going to press the inventory menu button and quit at the same time using your mouse and keyboard or mouse and controller. And once inside your inventory, you'll use the mouse wheel to scroll down to the item you want to duplicate. But if the item is on another menu, let's say you want to duplicate Titanite shards or something like that, you can still use the mouse to click on the menu. Just be sure not to close the confirmation box that's currently being overlaid. And then once the item to be duplicated is highlighted, you're going to click on that. And then, as before, just pay attention to the top of the screen. But this time, instead of selecting use, we're going to select drop. And once the new confirmation box appears, we're going to press down on the keyboard, which will allow us to underflow to negative 998. And this is why it's called the Underflow glitch. As it happens, we have 1,000 long swords in our inventory, technically speaking. We have one long sword that's worth 999 and an extra one. So we have 1,000, technically speaking, which is not normally allowed. You can't have 1,000 of an item in your inventory. So what the game tries to do is it tries to count to 1,000, but it can't. So it rolls the counter over back to the lowest possible value, which is negative 999, but you can't drop everything all at once, so it's negative 999 plus 1, which is why you see negative 998. Anyway, I digress. The point is that that's all you need to do. Just drop negative 998, and it will drop most of those to the ground, obviously. But the maximum amount that item can actually contain will be stored in your inventory so that you can use it later. And that's how you do the other duplication glitch. That's how you do the inventory duplication glitch. Anyway, I hope this made sense. My explanation made sense, and I hope that you got something out of this tutorial. And thank you for watching, and thank you for your support.